nice to meet you all. We're about to get started, so if you guys could take a slice of pizza and a bottle of water and grab your seat while you can. If you could be so kind, maybe come to the front and not all the way in the back. I will not bite, hopefully. I'll give everyone 1 second. All right. Wait, I think we have a guest if you want to check her in. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. I'll give everyone one last 30 seconds to get their pizzas. There's 3 of you now. All right. Are you guys good? Okay. They're all the same, man. They're all water. Okay. 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 Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to start by introducing myself. Nice to meet you all, and thanks for coming today. My name is Tom Nakata. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a startup called Qlay, Qlay, and we're also fortunate enough to host this event tonight. We have guests today, Lillie from Tesla and Mariana from Intuit today, and we're going to do a fireside chat, a panel later. But before we get into the exciting part, I just wanted to quickly introduce what we do as a service. Whoop. All right, the first malfunction of the day. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, I didn't turn it on. Oop. All right. I guess it's not going to work. Oh, there you go. Okay. Great. So we're a startup called Qlay, and we're essentially an AI recruiting company. And a little bit to introduce myself. My name is Tom, and I'm the co-founder and CEO. And I have a co-founder and COO, Toku, who's up here. Feel free to say hi to him later. And we both have been doing this startup thing for a while now, and recruiting has been a very, very big problem of ours. And what we do is we help other startups find, hire, and pay vetted global engineers. And the reason that we do this is because we used to spend a lot of time on Upwork and Fiverr, and we used to try to hire engineers on those platforms. And it took us a lot of months to do it because what we'd always have to do is to put up job posts and then wait for applications to come in and then find out who the best ones are by interviewing them and making them do coding tests and talking to them one by one and finding out who has the best culture fit and who actually exists and things like that. So what we decided to do was try to hack this process. Normally, it takes around a couple of months to hire a software developer for your team with the right skills and experience, but we can do this in 1 hour because everyone has already been pre-screened by our AI model as well as our senior internal engineer. And also by hiring globally, you're also able to cut a lot of costs like things like benefits and stock options as well, and then have a much more sustainable organization to build your service. Thanks to our customers and a lot of referral network, we launched last summer, but we've been growing 70% month over month, and we have been doing all these events to build a community of startups in San Francisco as well, which has also helped. But that is enough about me. We also have one more person we wanted to thank. It's Yang from Cube. He's doing the live streaming today. Maybe I want to give a little bit of time to Yang. If people could give a round of applause to Yang, that'd be great.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Yang. I'm building this AI live streaming and video production tool, which to make video production easier. If you ever want to record or live stream an event like this, or some like podcast or tech demo night, you know how complicated it can be. So that's what Cube is built for, to make this easier. So you don't need video crew, you don't need expensive equipment, or you don't need even to run gear, run cable or wires. Just set up a couple of phones, and the AI will do the heavy lifting to produce high quality professional look streams for you. So if you wonder how it looks, you can tune in Qlay's YouTube channel. So this event today is being live streamed there, so you will see the difference. That's us, Cube. And then you want to scan this QR code if you want to request a demo or request a live streaming service. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I guess that's it for the partner introductions. Now we like to start our panel. And if Lillie and Mariana could come upstairs, and if everyone could give a round of applause to Lillie and Mariana. All right. Okay. Maybe we could start by self-introduction. I think you guys are tired of me to introducing myself, so maybe if you could start off, Lillie.
Oh. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Lillie Huang, and I am currently a product manager at Tesla. I've been there for about 2.5 years, and I work on the Tesla app, specifically working on the pre-delivery experience, financing. So basically, how do we get our customers the financing they needed so that they could drive home a Tesla? Prior to this, I worked as a product manager in a few different industries and functions. So for example, I was a product manager. Is this better? Okay. I was a product manager at MIT's Media Lab working on Bitcoin research and working with central banks to research CBDC, central bank digital currency. And prior to that, also worked in sub-Saharan Africa for 3 years, in Ghana and Kenya for a few different FinTech startups as a product manager. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here tonight and talk more about product strategy.
Thank you so much, Lillie. My name is Mariana Marquez. I've been in the industry, UX, for about 6 years. I've worked in FinTech, I worked in e-commerce, healthcare, and most recently I've been working at Intuit since last December. And yeah, it's been an incredible experience. I'm really grateful. Thank you, Tom, Taku, for having me here. And it's just a pleasure to have you all here. Yeah, let's get started.
Cool, awesome. Maybe we could start off a little bit about, more of the general topic of product design and product management. I think a huge part of both design and management is solving problems. You're always solving problems. And Mariana, you mentioned about how values like adaptability and flexibility and resilience, how that shapes a lot of your problem-solving strategies in design. Do you want to delve a little deeper into the values you use to guide yourself through these design processes?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to adaptability, first of all, I'm an immigrant. It's something I was born and raised in Peru, and I feel like that's played a huge role into how I work as a designer. I think when it comes to adaptability with everything that has to do with AI, you just have to stay up to date with the latest trends. There's times when, I've been in networking events and they bring up like a tool that I have no idea, and then that's exactly why, you need to be well informed and things like that. I would say when it comes to flexibility, Just be open to new ideas. I guess in design, you always have to pivot, always have to iterate. It's part of the agile methodology. And so that's why it's important, flexibility. Then resiliency, that's a big one for me, just because sometimes in design, not everybody's gonna align with your designs. Not everyone is gonna be a fan of your design, so you have to be ready to for the pushbacks and the setbacks, and be open to those kind of things. Yeah.
And on the product management side, I think I agree with a lot of what Mariana said. And on the flexibility and being able to adopt quickly, I think one of the things that I always push my engineers to do when they think about building something is that hard coding sometimes is not the best idea, right? Especially if you want to be flexible and move things quickly. For certain things that you're designing for, maybe it is worth putting in the time. So I think those are things from a PM perspective that I always think about. We know how fast the world can change. What happened during COVID, and companies all need to pivot immediately, right? So I think that's really the PM's job, and also working hand in hand with your development team to make sure that your product is designed in a way that can adopt quickly when surprises like that come up.
I love that. Thank you. I think flexibility and adaptability means a lot in the age of AI, where a lot of accessible AI models are becoming better and better day by day, and that essentially has a big impact on product and things like that. But I guess when you also switch industries, that becomes also a big change in how you work and how you design things and how you manage product. But both of you have worked in various industries, especially Mariana. I think you worked in e-commerce, as well as insurance, finance. These various industries, working in various industries, how does, do you gain insights from working in different industries, but as a designer?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is that there's different user needs. For example, in healthcare, in FinTech, might be designing for patients or front line nurses, and so that's very different than working at a bank where you need to design for people who do day-to-day banking operations. So that's a big change. I would say that's one of the biggest insights for me, just working in various industries. I can also think of maybe bringing stuff from that you learn back, like again, healthcare, FinTech example, stuff that you learn in healthcare applied to FinTech. So those just cross-functional, cross-ideation, I would say, it's one of the biggest things. And just dealing with different teams, in the different industries. Yeah, those are the things that I would say I gain as a designer. Yeah.
Input on that?
I think, I agree with a lot of what Mariana said. And one thing to add is that it doesn't matter what industry you work in. I think one of the things I learned is, you're always trying to solve the problem. You're always trying to solve the different use cases. And then you find a solution, whether that's technology or something else, to solve for that. It shouldn't be the other way around, where you have a technology and then you're trying to find a problem to solve. Right, and I think that was something that we have seen, in the blockchain space, and one of the reasons why, it is taking some time to fully take off. But I think that's a learning that I really take away, no matter what industry I'm in, is really focusing on what is a problem I'm trying to solve for, what is a use case, and then develop solutions, from that instead of vice versa.
That makes sense. I think as a startup, what you hear often is define the problem first, not the solution, and find the person to sell it to. I often do that, unfortunately, and fail. But I think when you build a product or design a product, there's also a problem being solved, but there's also this story that you're trying to build as like a designer. You're designing a story, you're telling a story of the user. And how does that get incorporated into building the design of the entire software?
Well, I think when we talk about stories, stories are very powerful. You know, you can be, from bedtime stories to travel stories, and I think that's very huge in design, because in that way you're explaining the product. You know, you're connecting with people on a much deeper level. It's very important in UX, and something that's actually sometimes an oversight is the product should make people feel. You know, that's the long-lasting effect that a product should have, the effect that on people. And so, yeah, it's applied not only from a user perspective, but also with the teams. You know, you have to be able to give rationale to your designs, yeah, it's just about, again, the story and the beginning to end, and that's how great learning experiences come from. And yeah, those can be told to a lot of different audiences. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Maybe I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about collaboration. I think as a product manager and also a designer, you talk to a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, developers, other products, other designers. Reading my notes. But when you have so many people as stakeholders in this product processes, how do you ensure that people collaborate and not clash?
I mean, clashing is going to happen. Definitely, it's going to happen, because you have, different views, from engineers having a much more technical perspective on things. You have PMs, right? They're all about speed and product strategy, and we have designers. We have to advocate for users. And so I guess, in a way, the way I've dealt with this kind of situations is just create alignment around the product vision. While we always have to remember the why behind the work that we're doing. And so that's what's kept the team aligned. And just again, being an advocate for the design, and be ready for questions, and just know your stuff. Really, yeah, that's my point of view.
Put on that, Lillie.
Yeah, I feel like that's my everyday job. That's what I do, probably a lot of hours, just to drive alignment and make sure all stakeholders are on the same page. As a product manager, you're kind of at that cross section, and you're always at the hot seat, right? You're trying to balance different views from sales, from operations.
Dollar value per customer or something like that. But I like that you said sell more cars, just simply. Do you have like a North Star of some sort at Intuit, Mariana?
Yeah, I was actually going to jump in, because I remember I have an example. I mean, right now I'm working, Intuit has multiple products. But basically, I'm working on redesigning the company profile. And so one way to get alignment from the team is just through decks. We use a lot of decks, too long, didn't read framework kind of thing. And that's where we just give an overview of like what the user insights are, and just, you know, detailed specs, detailed documentation on the designs. But yeah, I would say that's one of the examples that I can think of right now. Yeah, just the customer profile and the getting alignment. Yeah.
Love that. Oh, wait, did you just say customer alignment?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was actually the second, or the next question that I wanted to ask. I think when you're designing or managing a product, you're building a product, new features, and things like that, the key component is the customer insight, like what the customers say, what do they want. How do you make sure that that gets implemented into the features of the products? How do you make sure that these customers are heard?
I would say, I mean, we're all about user advocacy. I think I was actually talking to somebody who asked the question to me, was like, are you more focused on UX research? Are you more focused on the visual aspect of things? I would say just being a UX designer is about juggling all these things. But mostly, again, this user has to be at the core, at the center of everything. And so one way that we baked in all of these things is with the feedback loops that we get from the users, you know, the bunch of interviews, surveys, focus groups. It's all about just putting the product or whatever design that you have out there, and yeah, just getting the feedback as quickly as possible. I think that's also important for startups. You know, you want to validate the product. You want to make sure that you get the customer feedback. Do people really want this? So that's the most important question that people should ask them. You know, founders should ask themselves. You know, does this really is relevant? Are we really solving an issue? So that's why I would say the biggest thing is just the customer feedback. That's how we really advocate for the user. Yeah.
Lillie, what do you think?
I think that's definitely a huge part. You know, another big part, and just going back to the data point, is that, you know, I think a lot of times the sales number can also tell you, you know, if something's not working well, right? And luckily, you know, at Tesla, it's a big company. We have a lot of data to be able to dive into the problem and figure out where are areas where we need to enhance, right? It could be obvious from the sales number, or it could be, you know, I work on the app, diving into where is the customer dropping off in the pre-delivery flow in the app journey. Are they stopping as they're applying for financing, or are they, you know, dropping off right before they take a delivery of the car, right? And also, you know, just speaking to all stakeholders, not just the end customers. You know, we have sales and delivery advisors, which actually some of my colleagues are here today with the table. You know, they are key stakeholders as we're building out the experience, because they're the ones interacting with customers directly. And, you know, it's not just about the end customers, but also the different touch points. And I think that's really important to consider where you're getting your feedback, making sure it's holistically. And, you know, working at a startup, unfortunately, sometimes you don't have the luxury of the data, right? And then I think that's what makes it harder. During my time in sub-Saharan Africa, I had to go to the field myself, you know, in rural farms, and, you know, talk to a customer directly and get that feedback. So I think in a lot of the companies here, we do have the luxury of data, and I think I would really recommend, you know, everyone who's trying to start a company really look into that, because I think you will find a lot of insight from that.
Yeah, one more thing. I do know, you know, at Intuit, we do a lot of follow me homes. So those are basically observing people. So it's very different when people talk and say things than actually doing it. So yeah, you have to really make sure. And there's also, you know, for startups, like you said, right, it's sometimes hard to gather a research team. So even guerrilla testing is something that you can do as a founder as well, or just being part of a startup. Very easy. You go to your nearby coffee shop and just literally like ask people, like, what do you think about this product? You know, without revealing too much, but that's typically how you do it as well.
If you allow me to go a little off the questions that I initially prepared, I wanted to ask one personal question. Whenever I hear the word customer research or customer input, I always think back to Steve Jobs' famous quote, customers don't know what they want until I tell them. It's just, I forgot where it was from, but it was essentially Steve Jobs saying, you know, the customers don't know what they want. Like if customers tell you to build a feature and if you actually make them, they're not gonna like it because they don't know what they really want. I forgot the rest of the quote, but that's kind of what he said. What do you think about that as like a professional who, you know, incorporates a lot of customer feedback into the product? Like, is there a line where you say, okay, like they don't know what they want? Or, you know, do you ever feel the same way at all?
I think I actually agree with a lot of what you said. And going back to my earlier point is that I think I agree that customers don't know what they want, but they do know what the problem is, right? They do know what is the pain point, but sometimes they don't know how they want to solve it. And I think that's where, you know, PMs come in, is that you are taking their pain point and devising a solution that hopefully fits the customer need, and that is the solution they wanted. So I think that's really important why, you know, we always go back to the problem statement. What are you trying to solve for? Because the solution can differ based on who comes up with the solution. And sometimes, to your point, the customer don't know the solution. They just know they want this problem to be solved. So I think it's very true that sometimes customers don't know what they want, and it's really for, you know, product managers and, you know, companies, you know, CEOs and also designers to, you know, help them design a solution that solves their problem.
Yeah, we're all humans. We're all different. That's exactly why we don't know what we want. You know, like that's why in UX, I think it's important to do testing right away. That's why there's also, you know, A/B testing. I think as somebody that, you know, again uses Figma daily, it's something that I not only come with one alternative, I come with a lot of them, and then just let them choose. And if you have the luxury, again, to have a UX research team, you can just tell them, hey, can you put these designs in user Zoom and test them? And then if we get more engagement in certain designs or more user satisfaction or even task success rates, then we know to go for that design. But in reality, I mean, you can't make all people happy. You have to make trade-offs, and you have to, yeah, that's the harsh reality, but that's typically how it happens in product, yeah.
Awesome. Little bit about people, a little deeper into the culture of different people. So different countries, different cultures. And I'm actually from Japan, and I don't know if any of you guys been to Japan, but software looks insanely different in Japan. And I'm sure a lot of you are not from you know, America, and maybe software or products look different back home. Even if you go to McDonald's, McDonald's like size medium in Japan is like small in America. I think, you know, that's like the simplest form of how UI UX is different in each countries. But that's also true in software and products and everywhere. And I wanted to ask a little bit about how different culture or experience in different cultures impacts your approach to design or product or anything related.
Yeah, I would say that question really resonates with me. I mean, you're giving me the opportunity to be here, Latina in tech. I think the biggest thing I've gotten throughout my years of experience, it's just being resilient, resourceful, very hardworking person. That's how I would describe myself. But again, you know, we have you know, the Asian culture. You know, we have people from all over the world, and they may have their own inputs and their own way of doing things. But I think, again, my culture has really allowed me to have, you know, I think I just connect more with people emotionally. I think as a Latina person, I mean, you tend to be friendly, warm, and so I think that has really helped me not only like design for users, but just even collaborate with my team. Yeah, I'm not popular in my company. I'm not, I promise you. But I know how to talk to people. You know, I know how to talk to people, how to make them happy, really perceptive. But again, this wouldn't, I don't think I'll be the same person if I was born in Uganda, you know, just a weird example. But yeah, just very grateful for everything, and yeah.
I was gonna share, yeah, like a little bit of my experience working in sub-Saharan Africa, and I think the culture there is definitely very different from the U.S. And the way that people talk, the way people interact. I think we all know, you know, Eastern culture tend to be more reserved than Western culture. Americans are more outspoken. I'm sure, Tom, you can speak to a lot more of that being the intersection. And I think one of my learnings when I lived in Ghana is that Ghanaians are also more reserved than Americans, and sometimes, you know, even if they disagree with your idea or your thoughts, they won't, you know, tell you so directly like an American would, right? So when I first moved there and was working with the local team there, you know, I had all these ideas and I shared with everyone, and people kind of just, you know, nodded or didn't say much. So I thought in my mind, oh, okay, no one said anything. The idea is great. Everyone is on board. Because I learned, you know, in the next place I lived in Kenya to really, instead of just talk, to listen and observe first and understand and learn about what is the right norm, and then figure out what is the best way to fit, you know, my communication style and my work style to make sure that it fits the culture there. And with that, I found a lot more success than, you know, just initially going in and sharing my idea and getting no response.
Awesome. This will be my last question, but while we're on the topic of culture and, you know, global countries, I feel like the hot topic in the U.S. right now is how President Trump is pretty anti-global, basically, and that also has had a lot of impact on DEI initiatives in universities, in countries, or universities, companies, in all sorts of industries. And maybe I wanted to touch a little bit on your idea of how diversity or how I guess the tech industry could celebrate diversity, or, you know, your personal idea of how it should be framed within this tech industry, as someone, you know, who immigrated to San Francisco. But do you have an idea on that?
Yeah, I think it starts from top to bottom. So I feel like if the executives or the CEO, you know, they come from different backgrounds, then that impacts a lot on the culture, the company culture, I mean. Because, you know, some companies, you know, might have more activities, much more team activities to do, and so I think that has a lot. I think, and some of them promote, you know, just give a voice to immigrants and things like that. So always making sure that the tech companies they uplift, you know, women, LGBTQ communities, and things like that. It's very important. I'm trying to think. Yeah, just giving a voice to those who are a minority, right? I mean, I'm a minority, you're a minority, you're a minority. So yeah, just making sure that we all have the opportunity to contribute our knowledge to this tech giant. I'm good.
All right, cool. I think I spoke too much tonight. If anyone in the audience have any questions that they want to ask the two panelists, I'm happy to hand over the mic to you. Oh, there you are. Oh, do you actually just want to shout it out? I'm happy to go over to you too, though. Okay, let's go.
Because you basically want to see whether the product works, whether you get the product right,
That hits home extremely. Let me repeat the question. So I guess in the spirit of running a startup and shipping fast, you didn't care too much about UI UX and just cared about the quality of the product. But how much should you care about UI UX when you want to prioritize speed? Right. It's a hard question. But I guess how important is it when the product doesn't exist yet, and you have to know what the customers think about it, right?
Not great UX experience, but your product suit us really well, I feel like that probably validates a lot about your product, right? That your product itself is good, even if you don't have the best user experience to guide it. But if the product does not get really good initial market result, then I think that's when you have homework to do to figure out, oh, is that due to the product itself, or I just need a better UI and UX to make sure I can promote it better. So yeah, I think that's something that we all kind of have to deal with from a trade-off standpoint. As a product manager as well, sometimes like we just have to launch something with something that doesn't have a great UX experience. But then, the challenge is how do you measure whether the product's result or the feedback, how well it's doing, is due to the poor UX, or maybe just the product itself is not great. Yeah.
I think there was an interesting thing Sam Altman said when ChatGPT started. For the exact opposite reasons. I used to advise startups. Sam Altman said I used to tell startups to launch fast and fail fast, but he didn't do that with ChatGPT. Feature because that churns customers and users. ChatGPT obviously had a sign-in feature, so I thought that was a really interesting kind of approach to viral product. I don't know. Sorry. Oh, okay. Do you wanna just shout it? Yeah. Another hard question about what the product and design teams looks like with the rise of vibe coding, and I guess also like a bunch of AI design tools as well.
Yeah, I can actually think of Vercel. When you said that, that's the first thing that came to mind. Or there's another Danish software, it's called Lovable, that literally helps anyone just input like some prompt and it create designs immediately. But I mean, all in all, I see all these tools, AI, all that as just mechanism to help us design more efficiently, more effectively. That's the way I see it. I know there's a ton of conversation around like, oh, will AI replace us? No, I think it's just like our best buddy to like accomplish things, even come up with like, user testing scenarios and alternatives, or validate our designs in some way. So I mean, that's the way I see it. And with Vercel, I think it's pretty cool because it also has some development baked into the software. So not just the design, but also the development. And yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah, it's just support. It's just better support for designers.
Oh, the gentleman in the front.
Who owns the customer and who really has the best insight to the customer and the customer insights. And then from that point, how do you navigate that in a distributed workforce where you have hybrid teams that may not be working together in the same building, the same office, the same country, yet working on the same product? Do you have any examples of that?
I guess the question is, how do you navigate through the tensions of multiple stakeholders saying customers want this, this, and that?
Yeah, I think from a design perspective,
not just the short-term wins. But again, it's about also encouraging feedback from everybody, like just incorporating that into your design process. I mean, sometimes my opinion is that sometimes they're more focused on the speed and the delivery of the product while we think about the usability of things, and sometimes there might be some tensions. But one way to do it, is just having like review sessions, just speaking straight as to why this benefits the team, and aligning on the vision, pretty much. That's from my UX perspective.
I think tension is inevitable, and sometimes I think it's actually product and what is best for the company. So I think the way that I would approach that is, if we have any data or intuition on which approach and which design is better, we can go with that. But most likely, right, your MVP is probably, you're not going to get 100% correct. In fact, it's probably going to be wrong. So I think that's where the, agility and being able to build your product to pivot quickly really comes into play. Because once you're in production, you have the data point, and then you can, be able to pivot if you need to, if the result is not what you wanted. So for example, experience, should they see, the rates first and then do the application, or vice versa? All of these things, the truth is, like, if you don't have data, we don't know, right? My intuition is as good as yours. And I think the best way to go about it is that sometimes you kind of just have to make a decision to go with the best path based on the data you have, and then build in the ability to be able to pivot if needed and make change quickly.
Maybe I'll take one last question before we. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask about data. You seem really data-oriented and data-focused. And, you talked about working for startups where data was not available. Obviously working for both a startup and like something like Tesla where there's so much data available, what kind of scrappy methods of data have worked for you as a startup that you brought into working for a bigger company as well? And then you mentioned kind of doing more qualitative research. I'm a UX researcher, by the way. So you mentioned doing more qualitative research, also like talking to people one-on-one while working for these startups. How has that helped you now in like developing that gut feeling of what might work or not?
That's an awesome question. Okay. So I guess I'll just repeat the question. So I guess when you work at a startup, you don't have a lot of data, but when you work at a big company, you have a lot of data, and the scrappy methods of one-on-one researches that you can do at a startup. How does that translate to something that you can leverage at a big company with abundance of data as well? How do you?
I think on the scrappiness part, I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently. I think being scrappy has, you know, even though at a startup you have to be scrappy, but you also really have to question the data you have. Where did they come from? Is it good quality? In the startup we worked at, you know, we collect the data from the field, and just having witnessed the, you know, data collection process, it's not great. And I actually don't think, you know, I would trust that data. So I think that gave me kind of a, what I call a skeptical point of view that I brought to, you know, bigger companies such as Tesla. You have abundance of data, but I think you also need to be picky and also need to ask the questions, where does this data come from? How did you collect it? Is this the right input that I should use to make my product decision? I think sometimes when you have abundance of you know, information and data, you kind of just take what you're given without asking questions. And I think that's one thing that's really important I learned to do while I was at a startup, that I was able to take it with me. And to your second question about, you know, the UX side and, you know, talking to people, you know, one-on-one, I think I do that, you know, definitely a lot less now, you know, talking to our customers one-on-one the way I used to at a startup with farmers one-on-one. But I think that skill set still translates when I talk to our main stakeholders, our operations team, our, you know, sales delivery, our advisor team. Actually, 2 of them are here right now, right? They're our stakeholders. You know, just being able to have those conversations with them one-on-one, at the end of the day, they also impact, you know, our product and how we design it. And I think that skill set really, you know, is transferable.
I actually want to add as well to the abundance of data that you were mentioning. I think one of the techniques that I use and my team uses is a prioritization matrix. So that just measures impact versus effort. What's the technical feasibility as well. So that's one way that we tackle this kind of, again, overwhelming data, or we don't know what to prioritize, what to launch first. Those kind of.
All right, awesome. Maybe I'd like to close the panel here. Thank you, Lillie. Thank you so much, Mariana. If everyone could give a round of applause to Lillie and Mariana. All right. Cool. Before we leave, I do want to give a shout out to the guys from Tesla right there. I think they're handing out a lot of cool stuff. And I also just want to make one last comment. As I mentioned earlier, we are offering recruiting services, and right now we're doing a campaign where if you book a demo call with us, you will have 400 engineering hours for free. So if you're looking to get development done, feel free to add me on LinkedIn and book a demo call with our representatives. So thank you again all so much for coming. I think the venue's going to be open for another 30 minutes or an hour, so feel free to grab a pizza and drinks and hang out. Thank you all. All right, thank you.